You're trying to get a huge chest. I'm trying to get a huge chest, but there are some garbage chest exercises out there. So now we've got to rank them on a tier list because that's just what I do, baby. Let's get into it. Starting off strong with the bench press. Now, a lot of you may think, oh, the bench press, king of the chest exercises. Not so. The bench press is fine. The bench press is probably above average if we are talking purely about building and developing the pectoralis minor and major, if I remember my anatomy correctly. Wouldn't that be funny if my anatomy was just completely wrong? But the problem with the bench press is it does not allow for a deep enough stretch to get good to great hypertrophy. Decent, average, yes. If you want to build strength in the bench press, if you're a power lifter, obviously you have to bench press. But for hypertrophy purposes, which is what this video is about, we're going to go with above average. That may piss people off straight from the get-go. This wonderful tier list does include a cambered bar bench press. If you've never used a cambered bar before, it is just a barbell that has kind of a divot in it so that you can get that stretch. So if we're talking about cambered bar bench press, I'm going to have to go God tier with it. The reason that I love this exercise is that it mimics the feeling of a dumbbell bench press, but you don't have to worry about getting into position with the dumbbells. As you get stronger, which I don't mean to brag, but I've gotten a pretty decent bench press. I've gotten a pretty decent dumbbell bench press specifically. It becomes difficult to kind of kick up the 130s to get into position, and you're never really quite comfortable. Wouldn't it be great if you could just unrack from an actual bench press and still get the same stretch? That's what the cambered bar bench press does for you. Next up, we've got the incline, what looks like the Hammer Strength incline plate loaded machine on here. I like this exercise a lot. I like an incline press in a lot of cases. I think it's a good supplemental exercise for your chest workout. These Hammer Strength machines, again, they kind of stop you a little bit early so that you're not getting as deep of a stretch. So for that reason, we're going to go very good. We're big fans of stretch here. I think the research kind of bears out. Slow tempo, big stretch, progressively overloading is going to be your best bet in terms of getting the most hypertrophy out of a given exercise. So it's not so much the exercise is bad. It's more so the implement here, the Hammer Strength machine specifically, kind of cuts you off. And these machines are made so that they fit the masses. And the masses don't really want to go into a deep stretch because it's uncomfortable and they think that they're going to get injured. That's a topic for a different video. But if we're talking about pure hypertrophy, this machine kind of loses me a little bit. All right, decline press. We've got our first, I think, highly controversial opinion. Very bad. I do not like this exercise at all. I think for all the reasons we talked about in terms of like setup, balance, control, it feels awkward. 9 times out of 10, you're getting enough of your lower chest if you're doing like a dip or even just general pressing movements. You don't also need to be adding in a decline press. I worked at an LA Fitness for like 3 years, and the decline at an LA Fitness is like way too declined. I think that just the implement itself is not very good. So I'm going to go with a very bad on that one. Okay, I think this is star push-ups, if I can see this correctly. I'm going to go, in terms of just hypertrophy, I'm going to go average. Again, stretch. Take a shot every time you hear me say stretch. You will be dead by about minute 5 of this video. I think the push-ups are great because you can do them anywhere. However, we're in a hypothetical situation where God has blessed us with the perfect gym known to man. You have access to every implement and exercise you could ever imagine. In that scenario, there is not a world where you're going to opt for the push-up over a dumbbell press or a chest press or a cambered bar bench press, in my opinion. And that's why we're just going to keep it at average. If it's all you've got, it's going to be great. You're going to be able to build some decent pec development with this exercise. But in the grand scheme of things, average. Now we've got our dips. I really like dips. I'm going to keep them at very good. And the reason I'm going to keep them at very good is because a lot of people struggle either with their body weight because they're a little bit overweight to their strength, yours truly, or they have really tough shoulders. Their shoulders just don't really love the movement. Again, me, I have a very love-hate relationship with dips. If I can perform them, if my shoulder allows me to perform them, I really like them. And I think there's a great crossover between your dip strength and your overall bench press strength. So as a power lifter, I really like them like that. But they are just not universal. And that's what's keeping them out of God tier, where I feel like the cambered bar bench, which is our standard for God tier, is a universal good exercise, in my opinion. Next up, we've got the flat dumbbell pec fly. Again, I think I'm probably going to go average with these. I think they're fine. I think they're a fine exercise. They're not universal. A lot of people struggle with them. I think in order to overload them properly, you start to get yourself in a little bit of a dangerous position in terms of overstretching, in terms of not being able to support your chest musculature with your scapula on the bench. If you're going to do these, and they may have these later in the tier list, I like them on an incline a little bit better. Just a slight incline, I find takes a lot of the pressure off of your shoulders. I like flies, and I think we're going to get to cable flies later, but dumbbell flies, for whatever reason, don't feel like they hit the mark for every person. So I'm going to go average. We've reached the dumbbell bench press. I think it's God tier. Universal. Actually, you know what? Universal, maybe it's the only thing holding me back from keeping it in God tier is just the ability to get into that position. It just becomes a little bit more difficult as your chest gets stronger. Your ability to kind of kick the dumbbells up into position gets tougher. I don't know. I'm going to keep it in God tier for now. We may move it back. All right, we've got the dumbbell pullover. This is a huge like biomechanics nightmare right now. There's a lot of discussion whether or not like, hey, you should even do this for your chest because it's more so a lat exercise. I'm going to put it in average anyway, even though I think it's a good exercise. I do feel it more in my lats than I do in my chest. I think it can be a good, decent lower chest developer. It's a good exercise. I don't think it should be completely thrown away like a lot of the biomechanics on Instagram are talking about. There's a lack of like good data to give us anything more than average on this. Maybe in the future, if we run some more tests on it or some EMG data, which is not the best anyway, but if more people start to understand that, hey, maybe it does target the chest more so than the lats, maybe it'll move up in the future. But for now, I got to put it on average. I'm leaning towards very bad, but we'll keep it on average right now. All right, we got the floor press. Floor press, if we're talking about hypertrophy, average. I think because it doesn't allow us to get full range of motion, full stretch. I think if you're working in a context of powerlifting or strength training, the floor press definitely gets bumped up here, probably to very good, because it does allow you to learn how to overload your bench press. But if we're talking about hypertrophy, which is what this video is about, it's got to be an average. Next up, this looks like an incline barbell press. I think that I like the incline barbell press a little bit more than the regular bench press. I think it's got to go in very good. For whatever reason, that slight incline to me allows for more pec development, maybe. I don't know. Maybe this is, I'm just kind of spinning my wheels here, but maybe it should go on the same tier as barbell bench press, but I just feel like the incline bench press is a little bit more impactful. Let's just put it that way. Next up, it looks like we got the feet up bench press. I really like this. This is going to go in above, or very good. Probably not above average. Although, all right, we're going above average. I cannot justify having the regular barbell bench press in above average and then having the feet up bench press in very good. I just can't do it. My brain will not allow it. We're going to keep it here. It's a really solid exercise, but I again think that it works better in a powerlifting or strength context because of its ability to kind of make the movement harder for powerlifters, and then that development carries over to their strength in the bench press more so than general hypertrophy. Now, what's funny is I program this as a hypertrophy type movement in my powerlifting programs because I can do it, kind of in higher rep range. I think it suits itself more to higher rep ranges, but I also think that at its core, it is a powerlifting specific, bench press specific developmental tool rather than a hypertrophy tool for the chest. Next up, we've got the decline to incline cable flies. I really like the cable flies. I don't love the bench press dumbbell flies, but any type of fly. Now, this picture kind of does it some injustice because what I'd like to see is kind of a crossover at the top. Any kind of fly where you can take your pec from the stretch position all the way across your body, which is what the pec does. If we can train what the pec actually does, we're going to have better outcomes in terms of hypertrophy. So don't just stop at the middle. If you can cross over, really squeeze the chest in, you're going to have a better outcome there. God tier, I think it should be in almost any chest like program should have some type of cable fly in it. Now we're reaching another very bad, the medicine ball push-up. Let's talk about it, okay? Because there's some of you plyo bros that maybe watch this video that are like, dude, this guy's just fat and he can't do plyometrics. I'm calisthenics, bro. Shut up, okay? If you want to do calisthenics and you want to do stuff that looks cool on Instagram, go ahead and do your medicine ball push-ups. But if you want to get a bigger chest, if you want to develop pectoral hypertrophy, stay away from this exercise. The imbalance of it does not allow you to overload safely, to get a deeper stretch. You're going to get caught by the medicine ball. And guess what? You're right here. Cool. You're basically doing a floor press, but you're off balance. I hate this exercise and I think it's garbage. Next up, we've got the pec deck or the machine pec fly. Really love this, especially if your machine allows you to go into a pretty deep stretch. A little tip for you, try and create that scapular depression that you get when you're doing a barbell bench press or a dumbbell bench press, so that you can allow kind of the scaps to support you so that you can really stretch the pecs out. The only thing that maybe make us drop this to very good as opposed to God tier is the fact that we can't do that crossover. We're going to meet in the middle. So now that I'm talking about it, I'm going to drop it down to very good. Still good, but I would prioritize the cable flies over the pec deck, probably 9 times out of 10 here. I think you might be able to load the pec deck a little bit more because it's machine based, but just from range of motion standards, I think the cable has to go above it. And so I can't in good conscience put them both on the same tier. We're back to another absolute garbage exercise. I don't even know what you called it. I think plate press. This is the worst of the worst, I think. I don't think we're going to find one worse than this. This exercise is so bad for so many reasons. Yes, you are squeezing your chest together, but if that allowed the maximum amount of hypertrophy, we just have people in their house just doing this all the time and having just like Arnold level chests. Like it's just not a thing. Like you're working against gravity because gravity is pulling you down. Do a little thought experiment with me. As you push the plates out, what force is acting on your chest? Just your ability to squeeze the plates together. So I would argue you're getting more of a front delt workout to work against gravity so that the plates don't get pulled down. It's just something that I guess people invented to look cool. I just really don't get this one. We're going to go ahead and just very bad and move on. Next up, we've got the regular, it looks maybe scap push-ups here. Again, we're going to put push-ups in average. Same reason for the star push-ups. They're good if that's all you have, but in our grand godlike scenario, we have other tools. So if you're just in your house, 13-year-old kid just getting started, learn how to do a good push-up. It will take you very far. But if you are talking about maximum hypertrophy, there's better. There's just better. Okay, this looks like the underhand press. I don't know what the technical name of it is because I just don't use it. I think it's fine. I think a lot of people have found good success with it, but universally, there's better ways to press. There are better presses out there that you don't have to kind of screw around with this. It seems a little unstable, maybe. Not a huge fan. Ring push-ups, average, hard to set up, hard to really, balance with it. Takes a lot of core strength, but does allow for a really, really deep stretch. So if you have the physical fitness to be able to do good reps of these, it can be very valuable. That's why it's probably better than just push-ups to the floor because you get a little bit more of that stretch, but the extra stuff that comes with it, the lack of balance, the necessity of core strength puts it at just average here. Okay, this looks like a cable press, probably, yeah. I'm gonna say this is really good if this is the exercise that I think it is. The only thing is like the setup is a little weird to try and get one cable and then the other, but you can really get a good stretch. You get to use a cable stack, so the resistance curve is a little bit different than the dumbbell press. I think that that's very valuable. I think you should probably program both cable stack press and a dumbbell press because the resistance curve is different enough and it's gonna be difficult at different places enough that you get value out of both of them. But I just think in general, it's not as universal. So we're going to keep it in very good for right now. This looks like the Smith machine press. Honestly, I don't hate the Smith machine press as much as a lot of other people do. All right, we're keeping the Smith machine press in above average just for the same reason we talked about with the bench press. But I think a lot of people would assume that I would put it in very bad or average. But I do think that it's a great way to get some chest development in a little bit of a safer context, especially as you're learning how to bench press. Also, you can overload and you can go to failure on the Smith machine a little bit easier than you can with the bench press. You're going to need a barbell, a spotter on the barbell bench press rather than just being able to hook the Smith machine. I think that's very valuable. So if you're by yourself, you can really just go to failure. Sometimes you want to go to failure when we're talking about hypertrophy. Next up, I think this is incline to decline cable flies. Like I said, any fly, as long as you're crossing over, you're going to a really deep stretch, is going to be God tier. I think it's very, very valuable. Another very bad exercise for me is just the medicine ball bench press. Like, we made benches for a reason. This is not a chest exercise. This is a general fitness exercise in my mind. This is one of those that personal trainers love to use to show you, oh, you can train your whole body at once, which is fine. But when we're talking about chest hypertrophy, let's do the chest exercises, shall we? Let's not do the exercises that require a glute bridge and a plank and etc. and balance, you know? Focus on the one thing. If you are training for general strength, then I think that that is a fine exercise to do, but for hypertrophy, garbage, don't need it. Overhead press, interesting that this is on here. I can't really justify this as a chest exercise. I feel like, you know, maybe upper chest, maybe upper chest, but it just doesn't feel like a chest exercise to me, so I'm going to put it in very bad. It's a very good exercise for the shoulders, I think, but not for the chest. So this is our list, the God tier, the exercises that I think that you have to do if you are serious about developing the chest: cambered bar bench, dumbbell bench press, flies of some kind. Kind of disappointed they don't have just a regular machine chest press on here. I really like those, and I think a lot of them, especially the Prime and the Nautilus chest presses, allow you to go into a really deep stretch. I think machines are great for hypertrophy because you can get so in the weeds with your loading parameters. You can fail safely on them. So if that was on this list, I think it would also be God tier. This is my list. I will leave a link to this tier list in the description if you want to do it yourself. If you want to share your results, please join our Discord. We'd love to see it. If you're looking for another tier list, you can click on this video right here. Check it out. Get mad at me all over again. If you disagree with me, get in the comments. I'd love to have an argument. Not a real argument. We're going to be adults about it, but talk to me about why you think I put something where it shouldn't be. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe, like the video, get strong, and stay strong.